Hello and welcome to today's Middle East Report. In this program today, we'll be discussing the challenges, also the opportunities facing many young Israelis, and also how they can change the perception of Israel here in the West. Warm welcome to the Middle East Report. In this program today, we'll be discussing some of the opportunities and also some of the challenges facing young Israelis. And in today's program, I'm joined by Adi and Uri, both Israelis. So welcome to today's Middle East Report.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Adi, I'll start off with you. Can you share something about your background growing up and living in Israel?
Yes, it was great. After I lived in a few different places, I can say that it's really modest. The place that I was living in the south of Israel, which is next to the Dead Sea, small city called Arad. It was an amazing place. For us, we didn't experience a lot of the problems that other places closest to Gaza felt, but it was great. It was a warm neighborhood and a warm city, small community, and I think that I wouldn't exchange it for other place in the world.
Excellent. No. And what are you currently studying?
International Relations and Islamic Studies and Arabic in the Hebrew University. So it's my second year right now.
Excellent.
One more year to go.
Very good, very good. And also, can you explain something about your background as well, Yuri, to tell us what life is like in Israel, what's life like growing up and some of the challenges you faced as a young Israeli?
I grew up in Jerusalem, and my life were very good. I can't complain. I had great parents. And I was growing up in a religious education, modern Orthodox. When I was 8, the second Intifada began, so which a little bit changed our life. We couldn't drive buses anymore, and we couldn't go to the mall or to the movie that often because there was always the threat of the terrorist. But I can say overall that my childhood was pretty good, and I can't complain.
Yeah. And Adi, how do you get involved in Israel advocacy, and where did that passion come from?
I think after the military, I served in the Navy. So I think after this time, I understood that I want to be more involved. It wasn't enough for me. I served for a bit more than 2 years. I signed for a little longer. But I felt that I need to give something else to the country. And if I can do that with my studies and to contribute whatever I can, so I want to do it. I think that I don't know what I will do in the future, only God knows, but I really hope that in the future, it doesn't matter what I will do, I will be able to do a lot of things for Israel to help, if it's financially or to speak for us or just to meet new people so they can know what is the Israeli people all about.
I think you're making a good start already. And Uriel, can you share something about your time in the army and also what you're studying now as well, because you're both Israeli students?
Right now I'm studying philosophy, political science and economics. It's called PPE also here. And it's very interesting. When I was in the army, I was in the intelligence forces. I can't say exactly what I did, but in general I was analyzing a lot of information and move it forward. For 2 years I did that, and then for 1 year I was teaching what I did to the young soldiers, 18 years old. That was, for me, it was the most amazing time in the army because I had 20 boys and girls, soldiers, scared coming to the army, and I was teaching them for 4 months every time, and it it was a very great experience. That in the end of it was also the last operation in Gaza, which we helped a lot as a group.
Excellent. And Adi, it's a big sacrifice, isn't it? I mean, to sacrifice 2 years from, what is it, from 17 to about 19?
18 to 20.
18
yes.
to 20, 2 years of your life. Can you share with us some of the sacrifices that you've had to make, but also some of the benefits of actually
of
being in the
course.
Israeli Navy?
I think that, first of all, if 2 years wasn't enough, not for me. But it was hard because I didn't get to go home, until up to age of 18. You used to be at home, to live with your parents, and to be, all the weekends is like really family weekends. And it was hard for me to just, at first when I started boot camp, I came back home once in 2 weeks. After that, it was once in 3 weeks. And when I started my service, it was every third Saturday that I got back home. But I have to say that I'm saying it as a sacrifice, but I chose that. I had the option to do less. But it's amazing. You have to give up a lot, of course, because you see teenagers all over the world. When they're 18, they're starting school. By the time that I'm finishing the Navy, they already finished their first degree and they're starting school, their second degree or work. And for me, I'm starting everything after them. So if I'm searching for a job overseas, it's a bit difficult for me.
So why the Navy?
Why the Navy? The white uniform.
Oh, okay, white uniform.
No.
You didn't fancy the green or the beige?
No, for me, just white uniform. It's just, I really wanted to do intelligence because I studied Arabic before that. They wanted me to go to this kind of intelligence, but I want a different kind. So my second choice was the Navy, out of several choices. I just thought that it was really amazing that I have the power to protect civilian people and tourists where I've been, which is in the most southern place of Israel, Eilat. So it's really touristic. You have a lot of tourist people. It's in the border with Egypt and Jordan. So it's just an amazing opportunity. When you think about it, you're 18 and you got to experience so much.
No, absolutely. And Uriel, what was your time like working for the intelligence? Because obviously, to be actually chosen and selected for intelligence unit means that you've got to have a higher level of intelligence than most.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure, but it was very interesting. In the beginning of my service, I learned a lot about the situation in the Middle East. I felt like I was in a bubble all my life. I didn't really know what's going on around me, and how to become the job that I did, to analyze and to do everything. It was very. It is 3 years of our lives that were been taken away, but I did learn stuff that I would never learn anywhere else. How to be, to get up in the morning, to do all my chores, not to forget anything. You can never forget your weapon. You can never forget to do everything that you have to do. You have to ask your commander for everything. It was very for me as a kind of a goofy kid. I learned how to be like a responsible grown up. I feel, especially being a commander and taking care of other soldiers and their and to see that everything that they do is right. For me, it was very important also to work as in a job that I will defend people's life and not just do stuff for the future. So I was working a lot with operations and things. I can't say everything.
No, of course.
I'm trying my best. But it was very important for me to work with combat soldiers and to see the fruits of my job.
Yeah, which sounds amazing. When you had military service, either one of you can answer this one. What are the friendships like that you make? Do you make lifelong friendships and bond with your fellow
It's amazing.
soldiers?
It's amazing. My roommate right now, that I think we're 2.5 years in Jerusalem. And my roommate is the one that served with me. And after that, we flew to a trip in Thailand with 2 other girls, friends, good friends from the Navy. I think it's like family. You're getting 2 years, 24/7 with the same people. So it's really like family. Whether you like it or not, you didn't choose them, but you have to live with them. So you learn how to do that, which is making me be a bit more mature, I think. And you get those people for life, because for better or for worse, they've been with you in all kinds of situations that nobody else can understand. So it's amazing.
I can imagine. Uriel, what do you think the army gives you in terms of skills? Because, when you look at teenagers here in Britain and look at Israelis, because one of my close friend, her sister's just served in the army and she worked in the psychology unit. And it's given her a career, it's given her direction and purpose. And before she was very shy, but now she's very outgoing and it's just far more confident. Do you think that military service is a good thing and maybe good for young British teenagers?
Everything you just said, it really gives you you're feeling like you have more purpose in life and you're doing something really important, and you just not just live for yourself. You give a few years of your life not just for yourself and your career, and you're actually doing it for your people, for your country, and for your family, and I think that is really important, to know that there is something bigger than yourself in the world, and that's what the army gives you. So I think it's very important to any country. I don't know if to have an army, but to have some kind of civil servant, and to give something to the society before you're becoming a grown up. And
I have to say that we're saying a lot of time, give 2 years of our lives, but I think that most of the people in Israel will agree that it's not to give, but to donate, and something that we really want to do, and it makes us feel better after that. Gives us so much. And
how does it feel knowing that when you served in your military service, I take it that 2 of you might be still reservists now. If there's a conflict, you would be called up, or at least have to give up a month, a year, I think, for renewal training and everything else. But what does it feel like knowing that you are representing the dreams and the aspirations of your ancestors who longed for the re-establishment of the State of Israel, and here you are protecting and defending that nation that so many Jewish people throughout the centuries longed for?
It's amazing. I think that my grandmother survived the Holocaust, and my grandfather as well. He was the one who brought her here and saved her while her entire family, almost except of one brother, passed away, died, you can say died. So it's amazing to know that what those strong people were fighting about over it, so that we're here to preserve it.
All of my grandparents and great-grandparents came from Lithuania and from Poland, from Russia. They were all always talking about how their families were persecuted, and my grandma just escaped Lithuania in 1934, right before World War II. It feels very good to know that after all these years, their grandchildren are protecting the Jewish country and the Jewish people, and they don't need to be scared anymore.
No, absolutely. So let's have a look now at some of the challenges facing those young Israeli officers who are serving in the IDF.
IDF stands for Israel Defense Forces. According to Israelis, it is the military that defends them from any harm. According to Palestinians, it is the force that occupies their land and therefore threatens their existence. Israeli citizens are required to serve in the military. Most soldiers are drafted at the age of 18. Comparing your daily life on the base to somebody who's not a soldier, what's the difference?
They have much more free time than me. They go into parties and meet people and study, and I can do it only on my weekends.
Somebody's telling you what to do sometimes, and sometimes you might not want to do it, but you need to do it because that's your job right now. People who are here, they want to be here, and they feel that they're doing something important.
We have historic rights to be here, and this is my home, just exactly as this is their home and Palestinians' home and everyone. We have to be here, we have to be soldiers, because unfortunately there are people that don't want us here.
Militants in Gaza can launch rocket attacks into Israel. This 25-mile strip of land is isolated by a tightly controlled border.
We're now about 400 meters from the Gaza border. The only people that can be here are the army, and now you. I'm 26, and I'm told that I'm like a grandfather here. All my family's a military family, so I was born and raised by the army.
You tell me about the rockets. You are very close to the actual border.
Yeah.
So
what
rockets
they,
hit you?
They shoot rockets from all around. They can shoot it from rooftops, from everywhere. The Israeli settlements, the Israeli border. Think about them. Our mission is to let those people sleep quietly.
Your work as a soldier, and you have the rockets coming, and you've been there in operation. Do you feel angry? Do you feel hatred? Do you feel sorry? Do you feel complexity?
It's complex because on the other side there are civilians, but you can't think all day about them because a lot of people from them wanna hit us. They can shoot us. We cannot shoot them because they know how we look. We don't know for sure how they look. If he has a weapon, I'll kill him because he wants to kill me. If someone wants to kill you, kill him first.
Does any of your soldiers need hurt?
I have lost a few friends. A very close friend of mine.
I've got to say that the IDF and all of Israel's defense forces are doing an incredible job in defending the nation against unprecedented terror threats. And we all need to keep the Israeli soldiers in our prayers in particular, because they're doing an important job in protecting Israeli security. Right, so I think we've discussed military service, and by concluding, it seems like it's a very worthwhile thing to do, particularly for you two guys. But what are the challenges facing Israel today for young people?
I think we have a few challenges. You talked about the security one, which is the threat from terrorist attack and from Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and a lot of other people that don't really like us. But we also have the media threat, and people all over the world, especially on Facebook and Twitter, showing Israel in a very bad colors, which we're trying to fight it, and that's all over the world. More and more people are becoming pro-Palestinians and actually anti-Israeli, and this is something that we're trying to fight.
But also we have the everyday war, like not every, but a lot of people in the world have them. Like, how expensive is it to buy a house as a young person? A lot of people is getting married around the age of 25, 27, after they finished with their degree, started to work. And it's just getting more and more expensive to buy an apartment, something that a lot of the people can't afford to do right now. And the workplaces, I think this might be one of the things. There is not a lot of really good workplaces when you can do something with yourself, not just stay in one place and work as something, as in the supermarket or clothing. So you have a high tech, which is really developed, but not everybody is good with computers,
for everyone.
like me. Yeah, I'm really bad at technology. And so a lot of Israelis are just, I think, going abroad to look for this, while their real dream is to come back and have a real house in Israel. But in order to do that, some of them can't do that in Israel. So it's a problem.
So, I mean, if we look at, some of the challenges facing young people today, and you both are pretty much the internet generation, so you probably don't remember a time when the internet wasn't around, or mobile phones, or computers. Sadly, I do. Show my age now. But when we look at some of the pressures facing young people today, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, particularly amongst young people in Britain and in Europe today, which are these the sort of same experience for Israelis, or do you think that your military service has really prepared you for life itself?
What do you mean? Which kind of challenges?
As Israelis, do you feel anxious? Are you fearful? Because, what I'm saying is that you're a very materially blessed generation.
Yes.
You probably had more stuff and more goods than any other generation before, but doesn't necessarily make you happy.
But I think it's making our generation more spoiled. So if you don't have it, you feel like you don't have something. Now that when you have something, you know how it's feel when you don't have it, and then, so in different times people lack other things. Now it's technology in our age, but
I guess we have the same problems like the youth here in Europe, but we do have a little bit of exception because like in Israel, people will wear really they're not as fit as here in the clothes. Like they wear sandals and just
that's because it's hot.
Yeah, but like shirts from the army, or like they don't put a lot in their look too much, which sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not so nice. But it's,
yes, we're not a capital of fashion, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we have fashion and style, but
but
not
in
Paris.
Tel Aviv, people are more like in Jerusalem. People really don't care that much.
Yeah. So how do we change the perception of Israel? Because sadly for many young people, when you're watching either some of our mainstream TV news, all that say a British audience or European audience would get of Israel is one of a conflict, and the conflict in particular, and so many people are afraid to go to Israel because they consider Israel a war zone. So how are you guys helping to readdress that balance and change the perception of Israel?
I think that the best way to change it is by creating a dialogue. And that's what we're doing right here, right now in London. It's also a business and pleasure together.
Always good.
Yes. But I think that a dialogue is the key to for everything. And just by meeting people, because sometimes you can't just throw facts. Because if somebody, like some of the people that we met here that is anti-Israel, somebody threw facts at them first. Not true facts, but the fact that gets you first is the one that sticks.
Yeah.
So when you meet Israeli people and you see that we're not that horrible, we may be pushed when you're standing in the line sometimes, but that is it. And yes.
I think that sometimes when people think about Israel, they think about a desert with a lot of ultra-Orthodox and terrorist attacks and soldiers, which is exactly not what it is. It's Israel is a very colorful country, both people-wise and also the landscape, and you can get snow, and you can get a desert and a beach and everything that you basically want. It's very hot, but it is very diverse, and also you just have a lot of different places and different beliefs. We have Christian, Muslims, Jews. We have very secular people, which most of the country is pretty secular. But we also have ultra-Orthodox. It's much more diverse when people think, and also it's not risky. I'm much more scared to be in North New York, in Manhattan, or in a lot of places around the world, than being anywhere in my country, including the West Bank.
No, absolutely. So let's have a look now at some of the things that you may not know about Israel.
When you hear the word Israel, what goes through your mind? Probably this image, or this, definitely this. So here are 68 facts you probably didn't know about Israel. Israel is a young country. How young? Just 68 years old. In nation years, that's like 3 years old, a mere baby. Israel's population is just 1.6% of the entire population in the Middle East and takes up only 1/10 of 1% of the region's area, which means it's tiny. Basically, you can cross the entire country in less than 5 hours from snow-covered Mount Hermon to the sizzling beaches of Eilat. Israel is third in the world in the consumption of sweets and vegetables. Israel was the first country in the world to ban commercials starring underweight models. Israel has the highest number of academics per capita in the world and the highest proportion of startups and of museums as well. Tel Aviv is home to 80,000 dogs that enjoy more than 60 dog parks. And the biggest dog cemetery dating back to ancient times was discovered in Israel in Ashkelon. Speaking of ancient places, Jerusalem, one of the oldest cities in the world, is also the smartest one, as it was the first in the world to be completely covered by Wi-Fi, which you'll need to find one of the best hostels in the world, the Abraham Hostel in Jerusalem. Another ancient city is Beersheba, 4,000 years old. Nowadays, it has the most chess masters per capita in the world. With all due respect to chess, the most popular beach sport in Israel, and probably its national sport, is matcot. There's no score, just the fun of ruining the quiet of the seashore. Books. Israel is number 2 in the world in book publishing. People of the book, remember? Wait, who's number 1? At least we're in first place when it comes to translating literary masterpieces from foreign languages. The USB stick is an Israeli invention which saves us lots of storage space. Israel is among the 10 leading countries in life expectancy. Folks here live on average to the ripe old age of 83. Israel has 273 kilometers of beaches, hugging the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Dead Sea, and the Sea of Galilee, the lowest sweetwater lake in the world. According to the New Testament, Jesus walked on the water here. This rescue board is called a hasakeh. It was invented here in the 1930s by a Jewish lifeguard. If you have a problem staying above water, the Dead Sea is the place for you. The salt concentration there is so high, anyone can stay afloat. Israel is one of only 8 countries that have sent a satellite into space. The busiest bird migration route in the world goes through Israel. 1 billion birds pass through here every year. According to Traveller's Digest, Tel Aviv is in the top 10 for cities with the world's most beautiful women. And yes, also among the top 10 when it comes to good-looking men. But women in Israel have much more to offer than just a pretty face. Israeli women also have more academic degrees than the men do. So if you are the next Mary Curie, this is the place for you. Not for nothing is Israel known as the startup nation. There are more than 3,000 high-tech companies and startups in Israel. That's the highest concentration in the world outside of Silicon Valley. So what was invented here? The technology that allows us to chat in WhatsApp, Messenger, and everything else you youngsters spend your time on. The world's first antivirus software, gesture-controlled and hands-free computers. Technology to prevent traffic accidents. Taxi service app. Remember when you had to wave your hand for a taxi? A social network that allows you to steer clear of traffic jams. A really small pill that can photograph your body from the inside. How does it get out? Solar energy water heater. Irrigation system that conserves water. Painless hair removal. Well, almost painless. Anti-jellyfish sting gel. Laser keyboard. The technology that enabled unmanned flight. Cherry tomatoes and Rummy Cup, the popular board game. Whew. Crembo, chocolate-coated marshmallow treat. It may originally have been a Danish confection, but in the winter, Israelis eat more than 50 million Crembos. Bamba, a peanut-flavored snack created in Israel. On top of being popular and delicious, research has shown that it helps children build immunity to peanut allergy. And to continue with the yummy stuff, even though Italy is the birthplace of ice cream, consumption in Israel is 10 litres a year. Respect and brain freeze.
And that does go on, but I think gives you an understanding, a little bit of an impression of some of the things that you may not know about Israel, which is incredible. Now, one thing I do know about Israel is it's a very young, it's a very dynamic country. It's great for young people. So for young people who haven't visited Israel, what does Israel offer? Adi?
Oh, a lot. I just opened Instagram to show the world what Israel have to offer, which is, first of all, nature. That's what it gives us, the place, nature. We have the warm, nice weather at the south, not at summertime, which is really warm, like Las Vegas, Nevada. And we have the snow, the ski in the north. We have a lot of bars. We have like great life, like in Jerusalem and Beersheba in the south. We have the most amazing studential life. Which
also,
is like
very diverse society. So if you like more Eastern food, you have the Eastern food on the Eastern bars, and if you have more, you like more European stuff or American style, you have everything. So if young people comes, if they want to come for religious reasons, or they want to come for, hanging out, or just to chill, or anything, you have a lot of different places and stuff to do. Some people come to surf, some people come to scuba dive in Eilat, and and some people just want to see the nature of the country.
Absolutely, and also the holy sites as well, and
Yeah,
Jerusalem as well,
of
which
course.
is your city. And I remember, it probably sounds like a long time ago now, 20 years ago, my first experience in Israel with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the Hebrew U, and we had a program called Kibbutz Connection, and we're based up in this big American kibbutz in the Carmel, which is amazing, a place called Ein HaShafet near the Megiddo Junction.
Yes.
It had Olympic-sized swimming pool, football pitches, and cinema and stuff as well. And that was a fantastic experience, to be able to learn Hebrew and to have tours around Israel, as well as teaching sessions, and played loads of sport and lots of studying as well. So for me, that shaped my life, and that's when I really, really fell in love with Israel, and I think it's had a profound impact upon me today. And isn't it important that we find ways of helping young Christian Zionists who love Israel to come and experience Israel for themselves, and to really, really fall in love with the country, because as soon as Israel touches your heart, it's got your heart from there on.
Yes,
Of course.
I totally agree. I think that the most important thing is to people to come to Israel, to see the real Israel, to have their feeling about their own Israel in their heart and as their home, because everyone can feel at home in Israel, not just Jews, Christian, Muslims. Everyone can feel part of this country like you did. And this is what we try to do. We try to bring people to the country and to see for themselves.
Yeah, there is a lot of foreign student exchange programs, and also just people who decided to come and study in the Hebrew University. So we have people from Korea and from the States and from South America, all over the place. Although it's not enough. Like I really believe that what you said is so true, and we need to find and maybe to make more programs that will just take care of it and bring more people to see what it's all about.
When we were in the army, we went on this program called Taglit, which is birthright, with every Jew or half Jew, even I think quarter, comes to Israel, and like it's their birthright to know their motherland and to come and see it. And it was amazing to be with. I was with American group. It was very important for me. And
so maybe we need to think about something like this for
everyone, for
exactly.
Christians and for. Like it's holy for everyone. It's interesting for everyone.
Because the only way you're ever going to change perception of Israel, sadly, and because so much of our news and focus is on the conflict, is actually going there for yourself. Walking down the streets of Jerusalem at night, when you see the beautiful Jerusalem stone,
Yes.
and you see the olive trees there, and you hear the smells and the noise, absolutely stunning. Or if you go up to a place like Kiryat Shmona in the north. In the Hula Valley, and you just have that beautiful countryside and the Golan around you as well, and close to the Sea of Galilee. So, and also the very much vibrant, dynamic life of Tel Aviv. I think you either love Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, or one or the other. And Israel offers so much, but I think the only way that people's perception of Israel is going to change is if they actually go there and experience for themselves. And usually the case is once they're there, they want to come back again, because the one thing about Israelis is that you guys are so warm. You show so much hospitality, so much warmth, so much love. And the friends that I made out in Israel back in '99, they're like family to me now. So every time I'm there, like come over for the holidays and what have you, always a place to stay. And it's having that connection with Israelis, I think, is the most important experience of all that anyone can experience.
I think that one thing that I really love about Israel, that you can just go down the street, talk to someone, and he'll invite you for Shabbat dinner, or invite you to drink coffee with them, or eat hummus or something like that.
Yes, I love it. I love the fact that we have a lot of tourists in Israel that we can really talk with. And although they made a choice to come to visit, so I guess that they made the first step. But I think that we need to do that more. And really, Israel it's such a small country, but it have everything to offer to everybody. So whoever watched the show and needs a place to stay is more than welcome to talk with me.
Okay, yeah. That's probably a bit too generous. But you guys are in London. So what have your experiences been here in London? Because you've met with parliamentary groups such as Labour Friends of Israel, Conservative Friends of Israel. You've even been to a Nekbad demonstration, which is a Palestinian organised event that so-called looks at the birth of Israel but in a very negative light, focusing on the plight of the Palestinian refugees who were forced out of their lands, not by Israel, but by their own Arab leadership who failed them at the time.
I must say that there are celebrating or remembering the day is okay, because maybe they suffered in the war, and like everyone, like any war, it was horrible. But the way that they were speaking and the lies that they were telling just made delegitimizing Israel altogether, saying that the Jews should go back to the diaspora, go back to where they came from, which is, and they said a lot of lies that we just couldn't handle. So we had to argue with them, and then it was really hard experience to see how all the British people that study in Oxford believe all the lies that they are saying, and we didn't feel like we could really change their minds like this.
Yes, and then you ask yourself, where do they get their sources from? And for me, I spoke with Malia, which is the president of the union over there. From what I understood, no one of the people who organized that was Palestinian or with Palestinian roots at all. So you can't say that it's something that the parents told them, but so it has to be something that they were reading or they got it from somewhere. But when I was talking with her while she was reading a list of 500 places that got wiped out in 48 and Arabic places, I asked her, because some of it sounds a little weird, because while I was listening, I saw that one of the places was a neighborhood that is next to me, a few cities that still exist, a lot of cities that still exist, and a lot of other places weren't even taken in 48 or disappeared in 48, but in the First Crusade, in the Mongolian times, in different times. And from what I asked her, she didn't think that there was a room to
have a dialogue. She didn't want to discuss anything almost.
To talk with the other people that were there and explain what happened in the other times. I told her that I respect the day and what she's feeling, but she have to say, if she's reading all those names underneath the title of 48, she needs to explain to everybody, those are the places that were taken in 48, and those are the places that were taken in other times by other people.
And we need to remember that it's not all been because of the Jewish people
yes,
like
it
fighting.
Was Mongolian, it was the Ottomanian time.
Also to remember that in 48 we were fighting after, not because anyone, we wanted the fight. We didn't want any war. We accepted what the UN offered us in 2 nations for 2 people. But the Arabs were the one that started the war, and they were the one who escaped, also not always because of us. And the Arab world did expel all the Jews from all the different countries. From also, I think your mother was one of the people that.
My mother, which is Yemeni, all her family needed to move while my grandmother was pregnant, because they didn't have a place to stay in Yemen. They know that if they're staying, they're going to die over there, and the only solution that they had was moving to Israel, which, thank God, was Israel already.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think also we need a day, don't we, to remember the forgotten Arab Jewish refugees that have been living in Arab lands really since the time of the Babylonians, when the Babylonian conquered Israel and destroyed Jerusalem, and been part of Arab life really, even before Islam, predating Islam as well. So it's important, I think, we remember a day when those over 700,000 Jews living in Arab lands were forced out of their land, and I think it's important that we have a day remembering their sacrifice, because they had to sacrifice their businesses, their livelihoods, and even in Iraq, for example, Jewish life for Iraqi people now is very difficult because the community is so small. So what's happening to the Jewish people in the late 1940s, early 50s is now happening to the Christians, complete ethnic cleansing
of the Christian in the Middle East. From 20% it was 10 years ago, now it's only 4% of Christian in the Middle East, except Israel, which is thriving the Christian society there.
You don't see nobody offering them a country or a place where they can feel at home, although it is their home.
Yeah.
And like we said, you said that they didn't got the solution in 47 and 48. They didn't got it in field committee at 37. So it went way.
Or
way back.
any of the peace proposition that Israel offered the Palestinians, they didn't accept any of it. They just don't want a Jewish state. They don't even recognize us as a Jewish state. They don't recognize us at all.
So when as Israelis, when you look at the Jewish communities in Europe and also in Britain, but particularly in Europe now, where the issue of Jew hatred has now become not a police issue but a military issue, as we see paratroopers outside Jewish museums, Jewish synagogues, and Jewish schools. Are you fearful for the Jewish communities in Europe with the rise of anti-Semitism?
I think that we were more afraid before we got here. I can't say that we're happy of what is happening over here. We are a bit worried, and we hope that soon enough we will start to take care of the problem with this dialogue and really to solve things out. I want to be optimistic about that.
But we need to take it seriously because also in the 30s in Germany, some people said everything just relax. In a few years it will pass. Hitler won't survive. So you can't take it lightheadedly. You have to. We as a society and Britain and everyone in Europe need to take it seriously, the anti-Semitism, because some Jews feel like they don't have a place in Europe in the future. A lot of Jews in France and of course in a lot of other countries feel that, and thank God that today in Britain most of the Jews still feel safe, and we felt safe to walk here even if we're religious with a yarmulke or kippah on our head, but in France it's not the same, and we hope it won't be like that here.
Yes, I think that if you are a democratic state, you have to do something about this issue before other different issues will rise up after that, like you said.
Yeah.
Like we saw it in history, we don't want to do it again.
Yeah. We made a three-part documentary called Jew Hatred, a Warning from History, and we interviewed French Jewish leaders in France and also in Belgium as well. And when we visited the Free University in Brussels, we interviewed some Jewish students and also the head of the Jewish Student Union in Belgium. And what they were saying now is that only a third, I think, of Jewish students in Belgium go to university either in Belgium or in Europe because they're fearful of attack. They are afraid to be identified as being Jewish, and they face abuse just for being Jewish. And surely this is unacceptable as well. And also now Israeli lecturers, because of the BDS movement, are under increasing pressure not to actually give lectures and cooperate on research projects with European universities.
Yeah, I can tell from my own experience and from what I've heard from friends. I was traveling in Europe for last year, and I remember a few times that I did put my kippah on my head. I felt I had like people in France calling me juif, and harassing a little bit. And we did have a few incidents like that, me and my friends, and also people that study here in the UK, especially in Cambridge, Bristol. Jews and Israelis feels intimidated to speak and to advocate Israel, or even to say that they're Israelis or Jewish.
Yes, in certain places, and it's really sad, especially in the places that you just said. So I hope that other places will see how people feeling over there and will take care of it as fast as they can. And over there, I hope that it's an eye-opener to whoever is in the government. I think it's really important, and I don't think it's need to be a problem of people who support Israel or support, it doesn't matter what you support. We're human beings. It doesn't matter what we believe, where we live, where we lived. It doesn't matter.
It's not even a political thing. Like criticizing a country, it's okay. Everyone is doing it. But when you criticize Russia or you criticize any country, you don't say that they don't have the right to exist, or you're mad at the people that live in this country, or even not people that live in this country. British Jews feel that they can't even say that they're Jewish, or sometimes because they immediately say that they're Zionist and that they're affiliated with Israel, which is okay to be and it's okay not to be. But what's the connection? If someone is Christian, I won't say that he's supporting. Like it's just ridiculous how they do it and how people feel intimidated.
Yes.
And just one more thing, I feel like sometimes Jews and especially Israelis feel like people don't talk to us as we are ourselves. We are people like you or like anyone else. They talk to us as a whole, as the Jewish people, the Zionists, the Israel, and we want to be treated as such, as people, as regular people.
And how much do you say this is probably down to jealousy? I mean, you look at Israel, and Israel is a nation that is thriving, particularly now with all these startup nations and economy and high tech. And Israel is probably the envy of the world.
I hope that it's not because of jealousy. I think that when I see in the university a student that is doing really, really well at something that I want to be good at, I'm not looking at him and saying, oh, he's doing really well. I need to find something, some dirt or something that will make him fall. I look at him and I look at him as something that can make me better. Because now when he's set at the bar, I want to be better than that. And I think that I really hope that it's not jealousy, because if people look at Israel and the technology and everything that it's doing, then what you need to do is just look at it and say, I want to be better. If you're competitive, say, I want to be better. And then if you invest all your time about thinking how can you be better and not how you think, how can you make another...
Other people worse.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're down to the last 5 minutes of the programme. Which has gone very quickly. And I think we really have to say, you know, some of the benefits of Israel. And certainly when you visit Israel, you see that it's different, so different than how it's portrayed. You know, the warmth of Israelis, you know, the fantastic food, including the hummus and what have you. And also the kind of experience you have with that nice mixture of ancient nation together with old nation. How can we get young people engaged with Israel?
I think the first thing we need to do is to bring more people to Israel, and they can see for themselves. I think yesterday someone said that if we'll bring all people all over the world for 20 minutes in Jerusalem, 20 minutes in Tel Aviv, everything will be different. And I think this is what we need to do. And then people will see how much they care about the country and how much they love the country just because what it is, and then they'll advocate it in a good way, I think.
Yes, a lot of time when you go into other countries, you're going for a certain reason. I'm not saying that this is the reason, but let's say, for example, Italia and the pasta. So you want to go to Italy because you have great pasta, let's say, for example, or the Vatican. So I think that in Israel, as an individual, it doesn't matter what you like, you can find it over there. So if people will just, you know, everybody have phones, like you said, we're the technology generation. So they take their laptops or their phones and just Google whatever they like to do in Israel, they will see that it's unlimited options over there.
Yeah.
Guaranteed sunshine as well, yeah?
And sunshine, amazing sunshine, sometimes a bit too much sunshine.
Yeah. So really summing up, how would you like to see Israel more engaged with the world and more advocating her position and really showing the strength that Israel is?
I think by creating more programs, like we said, that will bring more people. I think that this is what they're doing now, and maybe Uriel can say, can tell about it because he is engaging in a program that is doing it right now.
I'm working also in an organization called Stand With Us, and we're bringing young leaders to Israel. We're going to bring, I think, 20 this year, 20 young leaders. We're finding them right now, also from the UK, and to show them real Israel. And after that, maybe there'll be a little bits of lights in all this.
Yes, and last year, the same people did a different project, which was bringing fashion bloggers to Israel from all over the world, from Brazil and Italy and Spain. Yeah. And it was amazing because what they said
They just
What
showed.
they published was amazing.
They published a lot of fashion stuff about Israel from Tel Aviv and from all over the country, and people from all over the world just loved to see the pictures and got more close to Israel without even trying in a political way or anything like that. Just to show people the food, the fashion, the technology, everything that is interesting about Israel, just to show that we're normal people like everyone else, and we try our best to be good. And
More than that, I think that one of them, the girl from Spain, said something. Somebody were attacking her on her Instagram account, I think. And she was saying that she answered to him. He said that our government doing a lot of things, and how can she come and be there? She said, I don't support everything that my government is doing. It doesn't matter. I came here for fun.
I think the most important thing to remember is that Israel have the right to exist like any other country. Maybe we're not
More than a right to exist.
Maybe we're not always perfect, but we do try our best, and we try to be as close as we can to everyone, and to love everyone, and to accept everyone within our society and other societies. So that's what we need to remember, and we're just
And that
boycotting
Yes.
and hating, it's never the answer. Like, it's always the dialogue. That's the only
Exactly.
way.
We have criticized about our government as well. Like everybody, it's democratic country, and this is everybody rights. But yes.
Guys, I just want to thank you so much for being my guests on today's Middle East Report. And you're both wonderful advocates for Israel, and you can see your passion and love for your country come through. So it's great to see two young patriots, and I'm sure that you're going to do very well in the future. So thank you for joining me on
Thank
today's
you
Middle
so
East
much.
Report.
Thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure. And I just want to thank you for watching today's Middle East Report. You know, if you're a young person, one of the most amazing things you can do is actually visit Israel and experience Israel for yourself, because Israel is it's a dynamic, vibrant country. And I can promise you that Israel will change your life. And it's important that we change our perception of Israel, that Israel is not how it's portrayed by some of the mainstream media that just focus on the conflict. So it's important that we go, but it's also important that we continue to pray for Israel. And there's something very proud to be an Israeli, because if we look at the Jewish communities for the centuries, I've been outside in exile. And ever since the rebirth of Israel in 1948, we've seen the regathering of the Jewish people all over the world that have contributed to make a very vibrant and incredibly dynamic country. And Israel leads the world in so many fields. And to know that there are so many young, brave Israeli men and women fighting and defending Israel means that we need to keep them in our prayers. So thank you for watching today's Middle East Report. And we'll leave you with this song called Israel.
Home, hope, reborn, indigenous roots, Jerusalem, Beit She'arim, Sfat, survivors who thrive, overcoming the odds, mother, father, daughter, son, brothers, sisters, family, Jew, Muslim, Christian, Druze, Golda Meir, Yitzhak Rabin, David Ben-Gurion, leaders, free, creative, adventurous, proud, Tel Aviv, the Technion, forging ahead, shaping the future, beautiful, Gene Simmons, Idon Rahel, farmer, teacher, doctor, activist, peacemaker, dancer, dreamer, Russian, Ethiopian, Yemenite, Iraqi, Moroccan, Natalie Portman, Omri Caspi, Gal Gadot, rocker, surfer, skater, punk, athlete, competitor, champion, resilient, friends, best friends, sweethearts, commitment, strength, compassion, love. Israeli.